Irrational. Okay.
So they were in the same boat as Richardson. And so in discussing it with them...
Yeah, we have to wait. Sorry. So in discussing it with them,
just keep your shirt. The shirt opened up for a while. That's what I was trying to. Yeah, that's a good idea.
so
in discussing it with them, we agreed between our lawyers and the lawyers for the bonding company and the general contractor that it was to the best interest of both of us, of all of us, to enter into what you call a liquidating agreement, whereby the Monteoros and the bonding company admitted that Richardson was correct in their demands for payment, and
prima facie,
they would prosecute our claim in good faith
against the government.
And we would work together with them. We would provide the witnesses and whatever, and they would pay us $300,000 as a more or less token payment on the contract that was outstanding.
That's nothing.
And they would enter into this liquidating agreement within 10 days under our 1994 settlement agreement. Okay, that they would enter a liquidating agreement within 10 days, and thereafter they would pay us the $300,000, I believe, within 30 days or less. And
this
then,
is Seaborg Bonding Company.
That's right.
And who is
Monteoros
the general
Contracting?
Monteoros General Contracting in Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn. So what happened was that settlement agreement was signed in June or July of 1994.
This is up to 94 now.
94. And in September of 94, finally, they paid us the $300,000 to our attorney, Tracy Schaffel, Mackey and Moore. And then we commenced entering into this liquidating agreement. Now, the liquidating agreement was eventually signed and executed instead of 10 days. It took us 3 years to get the bonding company and Monteoros to enter into that liquidating agreement in 1997. And the only reason they finally signed the papers was because Magistrate Azrak, who was the judge in Brooklyn, before whom our case that we filed under the Miller Act in 1993.
This is getting larger and larger and larger. What am I doing? Now I can only
You got your finger on the zoom.
Oh.
See the zoom up there?
Oh, okay. Now what am I doing?
Push it all the way to the top, the zoom.
Okay. Sorry about that. All I could get was your nose, Harry.
Okay. We filed
you notice his nose is clean?
Yeah, right.
a motion to hold the bonding company and Monteoros and their attorney in contempt for not entering into this.
This is before Magistrate Joan
agreement.
Azrak in the United States District Court, Eastern District of New York, Brooklyn.
That's correct. And finally, after we filed the motion to hold them in contempt, Magistrate Azrak was very generous to them. We had repeated times when they would come back and offer excuses why they hadn't done it. But finally she told them, look, the next time you come here, Mr. Monteoros and your attorney, you bring your toothbrushes if you're not ready to sign the agreement.
Oh, she did?
So, yes, she finally did.
And this is what year?
1997.
And what month do you happen to remember?
I believe it was in June.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And so
It was actually 3 years after the settlement agreement had been entered into.
Why did she take so long?
Well, there were all kinds of reasons. The bonding company, Seaboard, had 3 different gentlemen in charge of this claim. I remember on December 31st, simply retired and left the company. Never notified us. It was only I called sometime in January, and they said, "Oh, Mr. Well, he's not with the company anymore."
And number
so
two?
we have to pick somebody else, and that took 4 or 5 months for her to get.
And she let them do this.
She
let them get away with this.
And then the second person left the same way, perhaps fired, I don't know, just left. And then there was a third thing. And then after that, the Seaboard company was taken over, purchased by St. Paul Insurance Company, which is the largest and wealthiest insurance company in America, and once again that was moved down to their branch, Fidelity and Casualty of Maryland, down in Baltimore, and there was probably a 9-month to a year delay in that.
I see.
So this is
question: why would ASRAC still let them get by with all this?
They did.
ASRAC could have put her foot down and said, "You do it."
No, that's right, but she didn't.
Okay, so
now,
and what is her motive?
Finally,
I ask you, what is her motive? Okay.
Finally, the case ended now down with the Fidelity and Casualty Company of Maryland, division of St. Paul Insurance Company, and they.
Whereabouts in Maryland?
Baltimore.
In Baltimore.
Mm-hmm. So they requested us to suggest a lawyer for them, and we did, and that took months, for them to interview them and so on.
I can't stand it.
And the bottom line was they picked their own lawyer to do it, and I had recommended somebody from Philadelphia who had done a lot of cases with the Bureau of Prisons and so on, but they went with their own lawyer, which is their
What'd
prerogative.
you charge them for picking their lawyer?
Well, I don't know, but I had to pay $5,000 to the man that I suggested because they wanted to interview him and one thing and another, and he came all the way to Long Island to be interviewed and so on.
And you had to pay?
Yeah. So anyway, finally...
I'm just so glad, folks, that we are making a public record of this.
Mm-hmm.
I am just so happy that we are getting this out to you.
So finally, the job got completed, and...
you mean the Bureau of Prisons finally got their detention center?
That's right, and the St. Paul Surety Company paid Tataris $20 million.
Tataris is the new general contractor?
The finishing, so-called finishing contractor.
Okay.
that I identified as being a mob control contractor, but they got the job done. Okay, now, so then
This is what year?
now we're up to 1997 when the liquidating agreement is entered into. And at that point, Richardson and the bonding company went over in detail the claim that Richardson had put in,
Yes.
the amounts of money that we had paid to our union steam fitters and welders and plumbers and so on, our subcontractors, our vendors. And of course, St. Paul Seaboard wanted to have cash receipts for everybody that we paid. They wanted canceled checks. They wanted an itemization of the taxes and all these things, which they're
All the
entitled
ins and outs,
to,
okay.
all the ins and outs. And their suit against the government was entered, and discovery started against the government.
1997.
Yes. And so that on that there was interrogatories to be taken of
takes
government
forever.
officials
This is federal rule. This is
who had been sent to Hawaii and spread all over the world by the government on other jobs. And they had to be questioned as to what about this Mr. Owens, bring him in. Well, he couldn't be brought in because he had become, let us say, incompetent. Okay, because unfortunately he had this brain tumor. Well, if he was incompetent, was he incompetent when he was handling this job?
Yes.
Oh no, according to the government, he was fine. We knew him, but so finally this case wended its way.
Who was the U.S. attorney for the government?
A man named Kiley.
K-I-L-E-Y?
Yes.
In Brooklyn.
His main office was in Washington, D.C.
I see.
Yes. And he worked out of Washington.
Harry, I'm afraid that we've got to move into the shade because
Okay.
the Sony camcorder is you know, a highly technological instrument, and it cannot be in an electromagnetic field like the sun.
Yeah.
So let's move into the shade, folks, okay? Although it isn't hot, is it? Are you hot?
No.
I'm hot.
Well, folks, we moved inside. It's a beautiful, perfect day for weather, but it's easier and cooler. And Harry, we left off where you were telling me that discovery had started, and you were about to depose Mr. Owen, and they said he can't be deposed because, and that he was he incompetent during all the action? And that's where we're going to pick up.
Yes, and when the government realized, our attorneys went and made a motion to Judge Stern, who was then handling the case in Washington. That's the Board of Contract Appeals that hears cases on construction contracts in the Department of Transportation in the United States government. And our attorneys went and made a motion to Judge Stern to request the medical records of Mr. Owens while he was the contracting manager for this job, and not paying the contractors and not appearing on the job site, and never really issuing a termination notice that anybody could think could be proper. Well, as soon as Judge Stern ruled over the government's vociferous objections that Mr. Owens's medical records had to be released, and we discovered from the medical records that he had been hospitalized during this period, that he had been threatening to kill his wife, that he had been suicidal and very irrational in every respect, including the things that he did on the job site in not paying us, the government said, well, gee, let's sit down. This was after 8 years. Let's sit down and try to settle this controversy.
The government said we will settle.
And that's right.
And year, please, that this happened? The government said that? What year?
Yes, I was pleased in 1999.
1999.
So that at that point, the government proposed that they would hire PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is a internationally renowned accounting firm, to go and look at the original records of the contractors who had been working on the job, and to determine how much those contractors, including Richardson Industrial, had been actually harmed, if at all, by this irrational conduct and termination that occurred because of Mr. Owens's illness and many other factors that I had mentioned already.
Are we before Judge Stone now?
We're before Judge Stern in Washington,
Stern.
D.C. at the Board of Contract Appeals. And Judge Stern said, well, he would recommend that there would be an ADR, an alternate dispute resolution, like an arbitration that's held before the trial in order to get the parties to settle this on some reasonable basis. Well, PricewaterhouseCoopers came to my offices, Richardson Industrial, in Hyde Park, Poughkeepsie, Staatsburg, New York, and they spent 4 days up here, and they reviewed every canceled check, every signed cash receipt of the employees, every vendor invoice, every subcontractor requisition, and our overhead and profit statements. And to make a long story short, Richardson Industrial was the only contractor who'd been able to preserve their original records. The electrician and the general contractor had, and Tritaurus, the finishing contractor, had mysteriously or lost their records during the 8 years that everybody was in turmoil for not being paid. But fortunately, I had been able to pay for storages and been able to keep the records. And in any event, PricewaterhouseCoopers concluded that Richardson Industrial was entitled to no less on an audited basis. And I'm just pointing to a document that was presented to the ADR proceeding in Washington in September of the year 2000, whereby it says Richardson undisputed amount $1,421,604. Now,
but that's wonderful. Is that a good figure? Are you pleased with it?
Well, that was a figure that did not include $280,000 of our tool loss. It didn't include any interest, but it was something that we were willing to consider, and it was undisputed. So that I was gratified that PricewaterhouseCoopers had concluded that this is what Richardson was entitled to, and they were employed by the government. It wasn't that we were employing them or anybody on a partial basis.
If anything, they would be against
you. If anything, they were trying to help the government to get out of it, to pay the least amount. In any event, the ADR proceeded in September of 2000. Now, prior to that, the Seaboard Company was obligated under our liquidating agreement to prosecute our case zealously in a timely fashion and in good faith.
Yes.
Yeah. But they never made a motion to Judge Stern for what you call summary judgment.
Sure.
Whereby this money would have to be paid to Richardson or the other contractors on a total cost which is this 1,421,000 basis.
Yeah, I'd like to point out to the folks that that is an admission, a tacit admission. When they said $1.5 million to you, that was a tacit admission that they were wrong.
That's right.
So
But
continue, I'm sorry.
the point is that in order for that to be legally held as an admission, the bonding company, the surety, had to make a motion
Sure.
to Judge Stern to see that we were, that is, the contractors were paid on a total cost basis rather than on a what you call a percentage of completion basis. If the termination had been for the convenience of the government, which it was,
Yes.
because of the sickness of Owens, then they have to pay on a total cost basis.
Yeah.
If it was made on a because the government was mad that Monteoros was late on certain aspects of the job, then it would be on a percentage of completion basis. There's a big difference to Richardson, and the fact is that
Big difference.
the fact is that the bonding company never made the motion till August of 2000, which didn't give the government even the month they need to answer it before the alternate dispute resolution proceeding came about. Now, so we went into the alternate dispute resolution with the PricewaterhouseCoopers audit in hand, but it wasn't legally binding on the government that they had to pay Richardson that certain amount.
Harry, how much would it have been on cost?
On cost,
Yes.
it would have been $1,421,000 plus $280,000 for our tool loss. All our tools were stolen off the job, and even that's on a depreciated basis. There were attorney's fees, there were legal fees, there were costs of overhead and this kind of thing, which is not included in that $1,421,000.
And that'd bring it up to about what, Harry? 2-3 million?
That brought it up to $3,179,000.
Oh, gee.
The finance costs alone at that time were $1,038,000.
Well, this is
Our
unbelievable.
legal cost was $347,000, and I mentioned the tool loss. So in any event, we went into that hearing, and during the course of that hearing, the lawyers for the bonding company were meeting with us, and then we would meet with the government, and we would try to come up with some meaningful figure that everybody could agree on. We had 3 of those sessions, and the 4th session came, and the bonding company excluded Richardson from the meeting, and they went and met alone with the government, and they made an agreement with the government without us present or without notifying us what it would be. And it turned out it was a figure of $6,880,000 that the bonding company agreed to accept from the government to settle the suit.
For everybody? 6 million for everybody?
For everybody. Okay, now of that $6,880,000, they came out of the room and they said, well, that is the bonding company. We have, and remember that Richardson didn't have the legal standing to sit with the government.
I'm sorry, folks. I had that thing in the throat and that was going to ruin all of the audio. Now, where were you, Harry? What were
I
you
was
saying?
saying that Richardson, under the Miller Act, didn't have the legal authority to block that agreement. However, under the liquidating agreement that we had with the bonding company, they had an obligation to bargain with the government in good faith on our behalf, zealously and diligently and in a timely fashion. Well, anyway, they said to us, out of that is the bonding company said, out of the $6,880,000, we are going to allocate $800,000 of it to Richardson. And I said, no way. That barely scratches the surface of what PricewaterhouseCoopers, number 1, has said we're entitled to. It doesn't provide for any interest, any tool loss, or anything like that. So they came into Magistrate Azraq at that point. And
Just a
said,
second. How did we get from Stern to Azraq?
Well, because after they settled with the government, that is the bonding company and the government settled, then it was up to me to come back to Magistrate Azraq and say,
Okay.
Magistrate Azraq, they have offered Richardson $800,000 out of their $6,880,000, and I say they have not complied with our liquidating agreement, which you, Magistrate Azraq, approved us
Okay.
entering into, whereby they were to diligently and zealously prosecute our claim in good faith in a timely fashion. They didn't do that. They settled for $800,000 when, in good faith, they knew from the PricewaterhouseCoopers audit that we were entitled to at least $1,421,000 plus interest plus tool loss.
And actually
So-
3 million. Okay.
Actually coming up to over $3 million. So we had to go back before Magistrate Azraq and reopen the case, which she had not closed out because she had approved this liquidating agreement and it was still before her.
And what year and what
And
date is this now?
This would have been in 2001.
Do you happen to remember the month? Summer, fall, winter?
Well, it would have been in January 2001 because that's when the bonding company, St. Paul Surety, was paid $6,880,000 for the government. And they said to us, to Richardson, we're going to cut you a check for $800,000, but in turn for that check, which we're allocating to you for this money, we want a release
Yeah, well, you
that
want a
you're not
release.
going to
Yeah.
ask for any more.
So you didn't
And
get
we
the
said,
800.
I'm not going to give you the release, but you give us the $800,000 and then we'll take up the rest of it. Well, they wouldn't give us that $800,000. So we had
Congratulations.
to go back to Azraq again.
Hooray
They-
for you.
They knew that we had been deprived of all this money
They knew it.
for what, 10 years by then.
Yeah.
We were overdrawn in our checking account by $11,000 after this, and
I
the
wouldn't think
government
you'd had a checking account
prosecuted
anymore.
us for it and so on. So they knew that we needed the money so much, so they thought they could say, here, we'll give you $800,000 and you give us a release for everything, and we said no. So then we had to go back for a whole year before Magistrate Azraq and say these people are not acting in good faith. Well, finally, Magistrate Azraq issued a decision on November 27th of 2001, which stated that Richardson is entitled to be paid the $800,000. That isn't in dispute. You people admit that. You've allocated it to them, so pay it to them. And they're also entitled to a trial to determine the difference of how much more that they are entitled to. That's what Magistrate Azraq decided. So at that point, the bonding company paid us $539,000. They gave us a check for $539,000 to our attorney, Tracy Schaffel, Moore and Muller in New York. The difference between the $800,000 and the $539,000 is what they claimed was the legal expenses and costs to get the settlement made. We disagreed with them, but that's what the magistrate said. Well, deduct what you say, and the rest is undisputed. And so that money was given to Tracy Schaffel.
And did you get the 500,000?
No, I didn't get it. And what happened then was that there were 3 individuals whom had loaned some money to Richardson Industrial during this period. There were people who, in the past, where we had these construction disputes, had loaned money, and they were paid back always. And
So, okay, folks, I'm sorry about the cough in the throat. What were you saying, Harry?
well, what I was saying was that at this point, the 3rd highest ranking official in the Justice Department in January of 2002 had written a memorandum, and it it very succinctly in 7 pages actually that was January 16th of 2001, had written a memorandum which specifically tells how the government is at fault at this, and that's why
Oh,
they
great.
were allowed to enter into this agreement to pay $6,880,000. It, in other words, justified what the government did in paying this money over to the bonding company, and it explains. So I was able to get that memorandum through the Freedom of Information Act. It
Oh.
took me about a year to get it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I did get it, and it's something that...
To whom did he write this memorandum?
Well, the memorandum was actually written to him. It was written to the Assistant Attorney General, and then the Assistant Attorney General wrote to the Associate Attorney General, who had the authority to approve this this agreement, and for the reasons stated therein, which was that the government didn't act properly in conducting this job.
Oh, Harry, that's worth a lot.
Yeah, it is.
It only took him 10 years.
Yeah, and it took me a year to get the memorandum.
Yeah.
But in any event,
Things are not the way they should be.
after the money was received by my attorney, unfortunately, these 3 gentlemen in New Jersey who had loaned some money to Richardson Industrial and myself to carry us through this period to be able to survive. Because of the illness of the gentleman whose money it was, a Mr. Kessler in Patterson, then decided that, well, the $539,000 would be enough to take care of them, so let's get that money away from Richardson and knock them out of the box so that they can't go and carry on the suit to get the rest of the $3 million.
Another devil.
Yeah, a devil came to the surface, and they filed suit against us in Passaic County, New Jersey, which I had to defend pro se. Now, in the meantime, what was more detrimental was that they made a series of charges to Magistrate Azrak that my attorney in New York, Tracy Schaffel, because they supposedly had an interest in the proceeds of this money, now had a conflict of interest and could no longer represent me in the litigation to have a 1-week trial to find out that all we had to do was introduce the PricewaterhouseCoopers audit, introduce the amount of interest and the tool loss, and it would be up to the magistrate then to decide how much I was entitled to, along with the jury that we were entitled to. So they made it so miserable for my attorneys that they withdrew, and therefore we were left without attorneys. I went and I attempted to hire a firm in New York who had a case before Magistrate Azrak against a insurance company and a jury trial, and won it in the construction industry. And they were Levy, Lebarsky, and Feigelbaum on 3rd Avenue in New York, and they agreed to take it, but they wanted a retainer of $125,000 maximum that they would give back whatever they didn't spend.
Yeah.
So I had to go to the court in Passaic County and request that they release that amount to those attorneys.
Oh no.
And the 3 people who were had instituted that suit against me objected to it. And the judge in Passaic County wouldn't allow me to hire these expert New York attorneys. And so I was left no alternative except to file a Chapter 11 to try to reorganize and allow the court, the bankruptcy court, to appoint attorneys that would carry on this case in good faith and make the rest of the recovery. When they made the rest of the recovery, the $500,000 could be released and everybody would be paid. Instead, the three people Judge Ferguson in Trenton to deny my application to appoint these New York attorneys, experienced construction people, and she allowed them to, she appointed the attorney for the three parties in New Jersey who were suing Richardson Industrial and who had caused my New York attorney, Tracy Schaffel, to be withdrawn from the case. She appointed their attorney named Tobia to then represent Richardson in proceeding with the rest of the litigation in New York.
Okay, who was the judge?
Judge Ferguson. She's the bankruptcy
In the
judge
bankruptcy court.
in New Jersey. Now, Tobia took the case, and instead of ever going to trial with the before Judge Azraq, he sat down with the attorney for the bonding company, and he made a deal with him to take $75,000, which was a pittance, and he went to Judge Ferguson to get that approved as a good faith settlement, which I opposed. Now, the rule on a settlement is that the bankruptcy judge has the responsibility to canvass it and see that that settlement is within what's called the lowest range of reasonableness. Now, I contend that canvass in the dictionary means to carefully scrutinize something. Judge Ferguson contends and decided that canvass means to rubber stamp whatever the trustee and the special counsel recommend. And I contend that the lowest range of reasonableness has to be determined by mathematics and by logic. And Judge Ferguson contends that the $75,000 is, well, that's what as I said to her, that's the only basis for $75,000 is that it's the amount the wealthiest insurance company in America, St. Paul, wants to pay. Now, however, she never answered that or had any logic or reasonableness. She never recognized that there was a PricewaterhouseCoopers audit that has hundreds of mathematical figures and computations that they base the $1,421,000 on. And so I have been forced now to appeal her decision to the district court in New Jersey, the United States District Court for the District of New Jersey, which is comparable to Magistrate Azraq's United States District Court for the Eastern District. Judge Brown there decided that I had asked for 60 days to file my brief because of the fact that I have to do everything pro se, that I have to do everything without a lawyer and without finances,
I wish you'd been pro se from the beginning here.
And he dismissed my case.
Ah!
So yes, because I filed my brief, but he said I had to do it within. And the memorandum was written by from David W. Ogden, the Assistant Attorney General, Civil Division, to the Associate Attorney General of the United States.
And his name was what?
I don't have his name right
Okay.
here. But
All right. Now, you were telling me about Judge Brown dismissed the case, and then what happened?
That I have now filed a timely appeal of his decision dismissing my case based on my brief being late to the United States Court of Appeals for the 3rd Judicial District in Philadelphia. Now, I'm confident that the 3rd Circuit will look at this case and see that there has been a manifest injustice done.
Absolutely.
Number one. And number
Amen.
two, that under the INRI W.T. Grant case that was decided in the 2nd Circuit in New York, a bankruptcy court is obligated to canvass or carefully scrutinize the proposed settlement that was proposed by an attorney, the special counsel Tobia, who had an adverse interest to the estate, and that under the law, an attorney with an adverse interest to an estate cannot serve two masters. In other words, he had no right to make this deal with the St. Paul Surety Company. An independent counsel would have at least gone to the one-week trial that Magistrate Azraq had ordered to be given to Richardson Industrial, and attempted to recover the money that the government's own auditors, PricewaterhouseCoopers, has in writing said that Richardson Industrial is entitled to. So I'm confident that the 3rd Circuit will look at this case and reverse what's been done by Judge Ferguson and Judge Brown, and order a rehearing of the whole thing. That's my feeling.
And how long has it been since it's been in the 3rd Circuit?
Well, it's only been in the 3rd Circuit for about a month, less than a month.
I see, okay.
Okay, I'm waiting for them to set a briefing schedule, which they have said they're going to do. That's what it is. So I thank you for the opportunity to tell you some of the history of this case and my projection for what should happen in the future. The 3rd Circuit is respected, highly respected for fairness, and I'm hoping that in that forum that justice will prevail.
Thank you. What's going on in the Azraq court?
In the Azraq court, nothing is going on until this situation is resolved, because Azraq was faced with a attorney supposedly representing Richardson Industrial who had an adverse interest to Richardson Industrial. She knew that because he had appeared before her adversely trying to have our counsel, who had carried this case on for 8 years, to force him to withdraw because of a conflict of interest. And they came in here with the biggest conflict of interest that anybody could imagine, and she allowed them in.
Meaning
But
she, Azraq?
Azraq, yeah.
Allowed them in, and she should not have.
She really should not have. She knew very well they had an adverse interest to the estate, but you must realize that this is the oldest case on Azraq's calendar, and she expressly said she was desperate practically to get rid of it. And unfortunately, she
But I
has
think,
not faced up to the legal quandary that she found herself in.
I think that she should be desperate at this point for justice.
That's right. Her job is justice, and she had recognized that in the past, and she should be recognizing it now.
Okay, Harry. Well, the honors are all to you for telling us this. You were very patient, and your exposition was very clear and organized, and we're happy to know about it. And I'll say to you what I said off camera just a while ago, that God knew this was going on, and God wanted it exposed, and He picked you and called you to do it. Harry, it's a great call. It's a tremendous amount of personal suffering for you, but God wanted it exposed, and God calls His best.
Thank you.
After service. And also, another announcement that's going on up in the Brown and Bill Community Church starting tonight, and that's part of the insert on the back page of, behind the insert, the praise music insert, is the Brown and Bill Community Church revival plan that's going on for these next 2 weeks. You certainly don't need to go to every one of them, but they are inviting people from all over the area to join them for worship during these next 2 weeks. And if you are interested in going, please see me following the service. Let us continue our own revival and worship our God, for our help is in the name of the Lord who made heaven and earth. Let us praise God. The earth is the Lord's, for He made it. Come, let us adore. Worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness. Come, let us adore Him. The mercy of the Lord is everlasting. Come, let us adore Him. Lord, open our lips, and our mouths shall proclaim your praise. Let us praise the Lord together.
Our key scripture verse this morning says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others better than yourselves." And the words of our praise song this morning, humble yourself in the sight of the Lord. Humble yourself in the sight of the Lord, and He will lift you up higher and higher. He will lift you up. Let's stand together. Please find this praise song on the insert in your bulletin, and let's sing it together. Fire,
you have searched me and know my thoughts. And the Lord has searched us and knows our thoughts. And knowing that our thoughts and actions are not the same as those of Jesus Christ, let us confess our sins together. Merciful God, we confess. God who in response to God's grace, let us continue worshiping by giving our tithes and offerings. Generous God, you have given us life, a place to live in, and people to live with. Open our eyes to each other and to all our brothers and sisters, especially the poor, the oppressed, and the alienated. Make us humble enough to help and comfort them, so that your love and justice and peace may come to them. We are bold to consecrate ourselves and our gifts to you, and to the service of others through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thanks to Bonnie Dunham and Jane Dean and helping Mary Ramage in Yorktown, and we just put $100 over the balcony to the church.
Are there any other?
Hi, everybody. Well, the letter got off to Mary Ramage. She said she was down to her last $8, and it's a whole week before the end of the month, or the beginning of the next. And so we sent her $30 from Bonnie Dunham and $25 from Jane Dean. Isn't that nice? And it's in the mail. I think she'll get it tomorrow. This is, let me give you the recipe for this. Much more than I'll ever eat. But I didn't want to, I wanted to wash the dish and put it away. Austin is doing great at the Manhattan School of Music. Okay, what is this? This is a vegetarian hamburger. Let me show you what it looks like. You can get it at Pathmark. Morningstar Farms vegetarian hamburger. Actually, it's Griller's, the best vegetarian hamburger there is. Crumbles. And it's 2 cans of green beans, drained. And it's good for you to drink that green bean juice. I know I served it for Dr. Beth, and he said, "What is this?" Dr. Beth, a theoretical physicist. And it's 2 cans of tomato soup and 1/2 teaspoon of cloves, and topped with mashed potato. Folks, how you doing? Call me up and let me know. Jim Cahagan kept saying, "It's awful when you can't breathe." And he was right. And finally it got him. I really miss him so. But I'll talk to him just the same. I'll talk to him. Apples and oranges. I suppose that's what we're talking about. No sale on the sermon in church. The sermon on church was about people who want to be the best. I want you to be the best. I don't care about being the best. I care about being the best I can be. But that's not the game for me. The game for me, no sale on being the best. No sale on humility. The thing I buy is perfection. Your perfection. Love perfectly. And Nate the minister says, "Oh, you're not going to get that. You know, they don't think you become perfect until you die." But I don't buy that. Sorry. I don't buy that. Throughout the Bible, it talks about being perfect. And I want you to be perfect. I want myself to be perfect. I want all of our friends to be perfect. So I guess we're talking about apples and oranges. And so I told him I don't go with that school of thought. And he says, "Oh, I know you don't go with that school of thought." So I guess we're getting into a happiness lesson. And shall we go to our devotions and do the happiness lessons, or shall we just talk about this? I just, honestly, on the level, I don't buy this stuff about humility. partnership. I just don't think God wants you to be a humble, sniveling, obsequious, fulsome servant. I think God wants you to be a partner. I think God wants you to be vibrant. Vibrant. And a leader. And somebody people can follow. Be like Taylor Holbrook. Make you want to do better. Make you want to be your best. I just can't buy that stuff about humility. Can you? Now Franklin, maybe Franklin was like that. No, I don't think it was humility. He just was quiet and reserved and reticent. That's why everybody liked him, because he was never a threat to anybody. That's why people like you when you're like that. You're no threat to them. But he was loved by everybody. Okay, maybe that's all right. But I think you have to be like, did you see my videotape that Alfred LeBrun sent me? Arnie Engen, and Edward Whitney. I like that. They weren't humble. But then again, they weren't saying they were the best. They were pointing out to you how the Constitution of the United States has been violated by judges in the Supreme Court, so-called, of the United States. And they wanted you to know about it, that gradually, imperceptibly, you are losing your freedoms. You are losing your right. I don't think that fits in with humility. I think that fits in with being perfect. So, no sale on humility. And again, I tell you, I don't want to be the best, okay? I don't care what I am. But what I do want is for you to love perfectly, and by that I mean be perfectly happy. I want you to know how great you are. I want you to sit down and think about it. I want you to sit down every day, the first thing every day, and think about what a wonderful creation you are. And uncover those things that you've been covering up for years as far as your talents go and your calling goes. Sit down. What is it that God created you for? God is calling you. I told you we got off the, I should have videotaped it for you, we got off the $30 from Bonnie Dunham and the $25 from Jane Dean. We got that off to Mary Ramage, who is down to $8 in her pocketbook with a whole another week of this month to go. I've often said to you, why is there so much month left over at the end of the money? Just a second, I have to cough and blow. This is the Washington, D.C. virus. I got it when I helped Jane Dean drive to Washington, D.C. to be reunited with her brother and to see George McDermott. He wanted me to come down to interview me. And I'm still making mistakes with DC TV. I forgot to put on the statement at the end. This videotape was requested to be cablecast by George McDermott, who was solely responsible for his contents. And he says, okay, I'm right with that. Good for you, George. And then I forgot to send them his form, but then I haven't got him in the mail yet. So, about being best, again, I don't care a hoot about being best as far as lined up with others. But I care a whole hoot about being my best, and you're being your best. Oh! It was a grand interview of Harry Richardson and his wife Mary from 1991, being deprived totally of their rights, being deprived totally of justice and fairness even, and avalanched by avarice and acquisitiveness, and by the bungling by the so-called United States government, the anti-government. Our real government was kidnapped long ago by a bunch of gangsters. And as Edward Whitney said, he's just convinced that the people in power are evil people, and therefore they don't want goodness, and therefore they don't want things like God and spiritual perfection and things like that. It's just as Edward Whitney said. Burners. We have these small voices in the wilderness. The wilderness. Things like God and spiritual perfection and things like that. It's just as Edward Whitney said. And why they're trying to destroy the Constitution, and why we have so many bad judges, so many gangsters who are in. And by the bungling by the so-called United States government, the anti-government. Our real government was kidnapped long ago by a bunch of gangsters. And as Edward Whitney said, he's just convinced that the people in power are evil people, and therefore they don't want goodness, and therefore they don't want things like God and spiritual perfection and things like that. It's just as Edward Whitney said. And why they're trying to destroy the Constitution, and why we have so many bad judges, so many gangsters who are in on this. But isn't it wonderful? We have a small voice in the wilderness. Arnie Ingham, who's a big voice, and Carl Ancesera, and Harvey Cash, and Zabi, and Jim Burness, and Kelly Burness. We have these small voices in the wilderness, and we have public access. And we're using public access to a very high degree to let you folks know that you're losing all your freedoms, okay? You're being swindled. Don't take it. That's why I guess I don't like this preaching about humility. I don't think so. I have some jokes for you. Glendora, a cheerful look at life. The woman said to the taxi cab driver, "Can you back up a little?" "What for?" "I don't have enough money to pay for this." And the man who said to his son, "I know that our basement wall has a crack in it, but I don't want you telling anybody else that you come from a broken home." You knew about the young Italian couple who had twins, a boy and a girl, and they gave Uncle Giuseppe the honor of naming the twins. What did you name the girl? Denise. Oh, that's very pretty. What'd you name the boy? To nephew. And Marilyn said to her husband, "We should move to a more expensive apartment." But she got what she wanted. The landlord raised the rent. And the nervous new father said to the man in the maternity ward next to him, "Here, have a cigar." And the man next to him says, "Oh, thank you. Congratulations. Is it a boy or a girl?" And the new nervous father says, "I don't know one cigar from another." The little old lady said, to the airline's reservation agent who was on the phone, she says, "How long does it take to fly to Buffalo?" And the agent says, "Just a minute." And she's wonderful. Last time it took 40 minutes. Gatorade. The judge isn't too bright. He thinks that Gatorade is welfare for crocodiles. And why is the average age of a policeman 37? They like to get them fresh out of high school. And how do you make a judge laugh on Monday? How do you make the judge laugh on Monday? You tell him a joke on Friday. So I started to tell you about yesterday. It was such an interesting day. All of these days are so interesting, folks. I want you to call me up. I want you to tell me about your days and what you do. And what you want to eliminate and what you hope will get done. I started to do the titles on a chat with Glendora, and I got 3 editions done. And I found out there were 10, maybe 11 editions. 11 half hours of a chat with Glendora. You see only 1 edition. You don't see all the other 10 or 9, whichever it is. And then Mary and Harry Richardson came up from Statsburg and made an electronic record of the evil that has gone on in the courts, in the Washington, D.C. court, where this case has been, in the United States District Court in the Eastern District of New York, that's Brooklyn, under Joan Azrak. Another failure by Joan Azrak to be an American, as she failed with myself, Glendora, and my sweet husband, Franklin. How she totally failed. Failed her country, failed her court, failed her life. And then judges in New Jersey, in the United States Bankruptcy Court, and in the United States District Court, where the case, and now the case has gone to the Third Circuit in Philadelphia. And so I was delighted with their visit from noon to 4 p.m. We went over and saw the museum. And Harry says that he has as many legal papers, as many boxes as we do. So I think the answer for him is to get a 43-foot trailer. Because where he's got them stored now is costing $160 a month, and you can't access them. You can't walk in the way you can our museum, and it's on both sides, and you can pull whatever file box you want. And then they went happily down Route 9H, the beautiful trip down through God's country. And I resumed editing at 4. Made so many senseless mistakes until 6:15. Got nowhere. And from 6:15 to 1 a.m. I did editions 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I believe that's it. Yeah, that's it. There's not 11. And plopped into bed at 1 and deep sleep until 8:40. And it gave me 5 minutes to start getting ready for church. I didn't videotape the hymns in church today. They were sort of obscure. But I did fix the envelope. I gave to the church $30. I matched Bonnie Dunham's gift from Mary Ramage and the crocheted blanket. And $25 I matched for Jane Dean and the green and white crocheted blanket. And then $20 for this Sunday, and $20 for next Sunday, and $5 for the communion offering. That's what I had to do because all I had was a $100 bill. It's the last one. I'm like Mary Ramage. Okie doke. You're a great and wonderful creature. You're a great and wonderful creation. Find it out, okay? How do you do that? Just let me go over the list quickly again. First thing in the day, sit down with your alone time with God and your book and your pen and write down what you hear. Write down all your good points, write down your bad points, whatever you hear, just write it down. Write down what you're told to do, what you're being pushed to do, and you keep ignoring it with loud music and scary videos and television and radio. And then during the day, count pure thoughts. No second level, trivial, ugly, negative thoughts. Just count pure thoughts. Abnegate, adjure, abjure, disavow, forego, forswear, reject, relinquish, and renounce. Negative, second level, trivial thought. All day long. And instead, pray for people. Pray for your enemies, particularly. And at 15, every 15 minutes, rejoice about something. I rejoice it's still fall, not winter yet. And our hymn, breathe on them breath of God until their hearts are pure, until their will is one with thine, to do and to endure. Folks, look at all the
I
tapes.
smell the skunk.
The G.
So, I made some corn with skunk.
Sean Rowe
I haven't had skunks around for a long
sent
time.
me. I've used quite a few.
Want to see it on Nightline? See how you do
I
it.
think she sent me 80 tapes.
Ooh,
Isn't she wonderful?
ooh.
You know, every TV station could do
What's the
that.
road look like on that night like?
'Cause these are tapes that public access producers don't pick up. How you doing? This is the 5th edition. Getting ready to be dubbed. The 4th is being dubbed.
This is the, whoops, let's get up the white night light.
And these are the
This is, the damage
programs that have been
to
videotaped.
Glendora.
Not,
By
you know,
dropping
edited.
chat
I
with
mean,
Glendora
dubbed.
from 10 p.m.
6
to 4
copies
p.m.
for
on
each
Friday.
program. 4 editions. I don't know. I guess I'd rather do this than anything right now.
He decreased Glendora's audience by 4/5.
Yeah, I think so.
And so we're telling what the value, the money value, the substantive
I'd rather be
value
doing
of the
this
chat
than
with
anything.
Glendora is. And how she robbed Glendora of that. And this is going to be filed in small claims court in the district court of Nassau County.
This is .com drinking the water. Isn't she cute? Now Katie would take 5 slurps of water, then she'd look all around. Then she'd take 5 more for .com. And Katie, of course, would keep her eyes closed while she was drinking water. .com does it all at once. Order out of chaos. Isn't it fun to have a TV show? Well, the editing ended last night at 20 minutes to midnight. So that was pretty good, right? It didn't start until 12:30. And what did it consist of? 6 dubs of each of 10 half-hour programs. A chat with Glendora. In this 2-week period, folks, ran 10 editions, 10 half-hour shows. So we made 6 dubs of each. The first box has been put away. This is about 40. So we made about 80 tapes. Something goes through my so-called mind. I'm going to reminisce for 15 minutes about the good things that happened in the 4-year period, 1976 to 1980. Now, I would like to have you write me a letter or call me up and put it on my recorder, the things that good things that you remember from 1976 to 1980. And if it comes out right, then we'll put it on TV. And then I'll call you up and tell you when it's going to be on TV. And then you can have a party. You and your friends and relatives. That's 2 separate groups. Friends or relatives. Can come over and watch it. Isn't that so, .com? And what do you think about that, .com? Alrighty. That's something new we'll try. Let's see if we enjoy that. And I want to pray this morning for the Martins and the McDermotts, and for Murray and his brother and his mother. I want to pray for all of those people who are sick, and I want to pray this. Breathe on them, breath of God. So shall they never die, but live with thee the perfect life of thine eternity. How many pure thoughts have you counted today?
Pop in the frying pan with no oil or anything, and then I baked it in the oven with a little salt. So this is the rice. And then I was like, well, 1 cup. Anyway, I ended up putting in 2 cups of rice. 1 cup of uncooked rice. I'm like, well, that's more than that. Okay, the first thing we're going to put in is the oil. We want, who's taking pictures? It's mine already. One. He's putting in the oil, and then the next thing, the thing that I'm telling you what I did with this recipe that I didn't like. It says 1 Eggplant. Well, how, eggplants are all different sizes, right? And so this is what I used. I was gonna bring a big one that I cut in half and used half of that before that's right in this. So this is about how much eggplant I used. Can you all see that? Okay, for the recipe, this is what I used. I've gotten a great big one. Okay. And when you're ready, you can put that in.
I'm always ready.
Okay. And the next thing I did was like mince the onion. Not the onion, the garlic, sorry. I put the onion in my blender. But can you see the garlic there, how I minced it? Okay. Now, I don't know, I brought these things, and then when I was sitting there, I said, well, this is probably silly, but anyway, I brought you to show you what I do with my garlic. I have 2 of these little things I got to mince them, because I used to be scared to do garlic, because I thought, what if I don't get it fine enough? So first I found this one, and then in one of the dollar stores in Hudson, and I was trying to remember which one, because my sister wants one, I got this one, and it works like really good. And so I feel, really comfortable using garlic that way, because I like garlic, but then I never knew, like to cut it and everything. So I found these little things that I use. Okay. Now, the next thing, okay, so you can put those in when you want. Well, that's what they ordered, so that's what I did. It says 2 garlic.
Garlic to taste.
Garlic to taste, yes, and onion to taste. You can do that too. Okay, so we got that, and then the seasonings. I was really afraid of the cayenne pepper. I don't know if everybody likes that, and I was afraid of getting too much. And I had made, I don't know if some of you that were here before, there was a chili recipe that we used to make, the white chili Trudy used to make. I don't know if anybody remembers that. Yeah. Well, I had made it, the first time I made it, it calls for cayenne pepper. And I did what they said. It was like over a teaspoon. And I put that all in, and Trudy laughed and laughed at me. She said, no, I don't put that in. So I wanted to give her some because it was too hot and she wouldn't take it. But anyway, I learned. So I looked at the recipe today and it said, how much it was. So I said, all right, well, maybe a 1/4 will be all right. So you can do a little this or a little less. Okay? All right. Okay, and that was... Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so if I got everything here I need, I know, my salt. I always use sea salt, so I brought it in a little container, because my son's got me using that. And how much salt? I think it says salt to taste. Yeah, so you can put in a little, what you want for salt, sir. And you can grind a little pepper in there, okay?
Okay.
All right.
I don't use a lot of salt cooking.
Well, I just got used to the sea salt and I like it. And then when I went back to the regular salt, I used too much. Okay, so now we've got everything in here, and they said whole tomatoes, and that's what I used. But this is why I ended up opening this, because it wasn't like a lot of juice with it. So then I opened up a can of crushed tomatoes, because I wanted it a little juicier when I put it in rice. But I was surprised at how much it made. And when it was all made at home, I put it in a casserole dish to bring, and I came to the conclusion, yes, it's going to be good in a pita, but I would also take this, if I didn't want to put it in pita, and put it in a casserole dish when it was all made, and put cheese on top, and stick it in the oven. That's what I decided would be lovely, because when I have eggplant, I always think of cheese. And this recipe doesn't call for cheese, so, and I was just trying this.
Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready, so go ahead. So now we're going to put...
Real cheese?
Well, you can use what you prefer. You can use real cheese or you can use fake cheese. It's up to you. Whatever you want. Okay? Whatever your heart desires. But that's what I was thinking I would do. So, that was just my idea. You got enough salt? Yeah, that's good. I do have a knife if you want it.
You may want to taste it later and add a little too.
Okay. And then I brought this because I decided when I was putting in the rice that I brought that kind. And then it calls for 16 ounces, and this isn't quite, this is only 12 ounces, so I did that.
Did what?
I use 2 cans. 1 can, 2 cans.
Okay.
Okay? How's
No.
that? Not all right?
1.5 cans.
Yeah, about that. I used a half of the other one. I used 2 different cans, you're right, there's a half a can in there. I used a half on the recipe that's in the kitchen. Oh, please, yes, dear.
That garlic, that garlic, the cloves is, that garlic?
It's the cloves, yes. Okay, it's the garlic cloves what I used.
Yeah, but it's misspelled twice.
What?
Misspelled twice.
Where? Garlic cloves, I didn't really look. Let me look. See, I had my own recipe at home.
It's G-A-R.
Well, anyway, it's garlic.
Somebody's fingers were just
Okay, and I did it on this.
dyslexic fingers.
Okay.
It's garlic.
You've had dyslexic fingers.
All right, is that
We all
clear?
get it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll look at this, let me see. Okay, so we did the olive oil, we haven't done the rice yet, the onions in there. Oh, yes, that isn't right, ladies. We know what it is, oh.
There first you have a terrific eggplant tomato soup or stew.
Okay. But anyway, I like this recipe and I hope you do. Okay.
We'll put it in pita bread.
Okay, and the pita breads are out in the kitchen and they're fixing some for you.
That looks
Okay.
lovely.
All right? Does it smell good?
Can you see it up here?
Can y'all see it? Good. Okay, I'm gonna pick up here, ladies and gents. And I thank you all for listening to me.
I tend to use less. I use 1/3 of a cup. The recipe calls for tahini, so that's, to your, but it's very strong, especially the Jova brand. And so I use 1/3 of a cup. And then everything else I pretty much follow as the recipe calls for. Sometimes I add more salt. Sometimes I add dill weed. I just kind of put in to my discretion. I don't always measure it. And where it says at the bottom, 1 cup water or juice from the garbanzos, that's what I do. I just drain the can of garbanzo beans and I set the juice aside and then I use it. I also don't measure that, and I'm doing it because I find that it always depends how thin or thick I want it to be. And so I just kind of see how it's going in the blender and the consistency that I prefer it to be. But that range is about what you would need. You have to be careful if you use the juice, though, from the canned garbanzos, because that's salted. And so you have to just be aware of that if you use that instead of water. Okay?
Okay.
And so I've prepared some, and you can just see here, it's just hummus. And then the sandwich can include any of these things, all of them, however you prefer your sandwich. But it's not very difficult. I just basically spread the hummus on both pieces of bread. And this sandwich can also work if you use mayonnaise or tofu mayonnaise, but I find that it tastes better with hummus, I think, because it has the extra kick to it. I put plenty on. You might like just a little bit, but I don't like dry sandwiches, and so I put plenty on. And then I have here some cranberries. And these are sweetened cranberries. I've never tried it with unsweetened cranberries. They're hard to find, and they're also very tart. So you have to think about whether or not you would like that, but maybe you would. And then some walnuts. And I put these on one side of the bread with the hummus so it kind of sticks there. And then the apples, slices on the other side. You can also put sprouts, you can put shredded carrots, cheese or soy cheese if you'd like. It tastes good with that. Now I have here some of the salt that Marilyn was using. This is kosher salt, and so it's very powerful. But if you just put a little bit of salt on the apple, it brings out the flavor. Yeah, and the juice. And then you can just take some pieces of lettuce and put them on. You can also even put, I think I've put tomato on. And basically then you just have your sandwich. And pretty simple. And if you find something that you'd like to add to it that you think tastes well with it.
You can almost like do it with toast and leave out the lettuce and serve it as a dessert.
Yeah? Yeah, you could do
Just
that.
about.
You could do that. Yeah, the sweet things on here are obviously the cranberries and the apple. But I think it tastes nicely together. A friend, I guess, introduced me to this sandwich, and she does a slightly different variation. And so you can come up with your own however you prefer it. And that's basically it. So you will taste this in a little bit, and I hope you enjoy.
Thank you.
This is not the international night, but those of you who know me know that at least once during the class, I talked about my daughter in Istanbul, and hummus is a big thing there, you know. We have something else that's coming out tonight that you could get in Turkey also. May have added, I don't know. But anyway, I was wondering what a vegetarian could do, you know, in a foreign country.
Should have, and you will have it together. And that's coming up very soon, so let me hurry and get you acquainted with what we're up here for. I finished up baking the muffins, which were comprised of pumpkin, which was solidified with the tasty muffins with the raisin nut mixture included. Now, if you see it and taste it, you'll find that the pumpkin dominated the texture of the muffins. And it's not raw, it's cooked. But in the baking of it, it became like it's not done, but it is. I'm hoping you will enjoy eating it and that you brought your appetite with you.